So my name is Sophie Zugnoni, and I lead cloud business development at TigerGraph. Thanks for your interest in graph technology. All right. So this is going to be a very fast talk. It's going to be 12 minutes. And I'm going to be covering first what graph databases are. 2, what makes TigerGraph unique. 3, how you can work with graph neural networks to improve your machine learning. And 3, how you can use TigerGraph's machine learning workbench and Amazon SageMaker to get the best value. All right. So most of you here are familiar with databases where you see this in a tabular format. So you see rows and columns, and typically it's a one-to-one relationship between your data. But in real life, it doesn't happen that way. In real life, you have connections between your data. So I'm going to give you an example with reInvent. So let's say the AWS organizers want to predict which sessions or which party you're going to be attending. So they know your name, they know your title, and they know your company. They can look at past record, and they can see what previous sessions you've attended at reInvent in the past. So that's a relational database problem. There's nothing special there. But with graph database, what you can do now is, what would be interesting is, let's say they have access to your LinkedIn data. So they can see all of your LinkedIn connections. They can see the past events that you've attended in the past year, the talks. And they can also see which talks your connections have attended. Now they can better predict which sessions you're going to attend. So in my case, sometimes I comment in French on LinkedIn. So then they're going to say, oh, she must be French, or she must be Francophile. So guess which party I'm going to go to. So does anybody here watch the World Cup? Does you watch the World Cup? Like, okay, France played with Tunisia this morning. They lost, but you can guess which party I'm going to be attending. So I'm going to expand this in industry. So if you have customers, ideally, if they have just one email address, that would be amazing, right? But the reality is, sometimes you have multiple members of the household using the same email address. What if they're married? You might want to know that so that you can come up with better recommendations on what product to buy. So it's the same, another scenario. What if you have many people with different home addresses, but they have the same phone number? So that could be worrying, or it could be interesting or worrying, because that could be fraud. So the key point here that I want you to get away with is that when you use graph technology, you can uncover insights that otherwise you wouldn't get with a relational database. So I'm going to expand this in the area of machine learning. So if you're not capturing the relationships between the data before you move that into your machine learning models, then it's like you're throwing away half of the information. And this is information that you already have. So in that case, you're not getting the most out of your machine learning. And you're not going to be as precise, and you're not going to be as accurate, and that's going to impact your business. So this is where we, TigerGraph, come in. We are only one of a handful graph database technology companies out there. But what makes us really special is that we are these 3 things: scalability, performance, and speed. I like to call ourselves the Generation 2 graph database company, built from the ground up to scale because we have a distributed MPP platform. Most recently, we completed a 36 terabyte benchmark. That's an in-memory database. So that's actually quite impressive, because most vendors out there perform at the 1 terabyte mark. So at 36 terabyte, it's huge. And that said, we have many large enterprises using us today. So the top 8 out of the 10 top global banks use us. Just an example, JP Morgan Chase, we're helping over 60 million households. We're protecting them from fraud. And last year, we were super proud to win the JP Morgan Chase Hall of Innovation Award. And in healthcare, we have United Health Group using us. They have over 50 million patients, and we were able to come up with better healthcare recommendation for them. And that's actually one of the largest graph we have because it's got over 10 billion vertices and over 50 billion edges. And so that's huge in terms of graph. And finally, the example I'm going to share with you is in manufacturing. We have Jaguar Land Rover using us today, and they were able to reduce the time that they did supply chain planning from 3 weeks to 45 minutes. And that's deciding which supplier to buy what car part from. So you can imagine in today's supply chain global issues how impactful that is. So what makes us also special is that we have built a machine learning workbench. So with our machine learning workbench, you can work with GNNs, which are graph neural networks. We have built a special plugin with your favorite AI/ML platform, which is Amazon SageMaker. So you can, it's plug and play, it's easy to use, and that's how you're going to get the value that we've been seeing. So we've been around for 5 years. I mean, we've been commercializing for 5 years, and we have the outcome we see is very compelling. So we've been seeing 20% improvement in the area under the curve, which is a key metric for machine learning. And for many of the financial services companies I mentioned earlier, we're seeing over 100 million in annual profit. And again, that is very significant, and that is to fight fraud. So how are we doing this? It's actually rather simple. So we take your existing machine learning pipeline, and we enrich the feature sets with the connections between the entities using graph algorithms. And at TigerGraph, we have a library, actually over 50 of them, of graph algos. These are ready out of the box. Example, we've got Louvain, PageRank, community detection. So those are graph algos that are ready to go that you can use to get the value that we mentioned. I will get back to this. So when you enrich your feature sets, you are able to get your graph neural networks and also your traditional neural networks to be more accurate. So we're seeing this in the area of biomedical research, where we have customers that are using graph and natural language processing to look into all of the medical documents and come up with a better selection of molecules to go into clinical trials. And they can do that a lot faster. All right, so we talked about use cases in financial services earlier. I talked about fraud detection. But in financial services, we can also help with anti-money laundering and mule detection. In retail, big issues today with supply chains. So this is an area we're helping our customers with. And we'll also talk about inventory optimization and customer journey analysis so that, again, we can come up with better targeting and better messaging for the customer. And finally, in the area of manufacturing, we see multimodal freight optimization and entity resolution. And again, entity resolution is really who is doing what in the space of all of these connections. So this is my last slide. I want to, again, address that we have a machine learning workbench. It is simply an interface that works with any deep learning tools that you're already using. So if you're using PyG, or if you're using DGL, or if you're using TensorFlow, we have machine learning workbench, which is basically TigerGraph, and it's a library. It's a Python library. And then we also built a plugin with Amazon SageMaker. So you're now getting, like I mentioned earlier, the best of both worlds. So you can use Amazon SageMaker as your machine learning platform and benefit from connected data from graph technology and using graph neural networks. So the one thing that I want to leave you with, just one thing, is that if you're not looking into the relationships between the data, then you're missing out, because the relationships in the data is giving you more insights that relational bases are not giving you. And then using this machine learning workbench, you can leverage graph and graph neural networks into your machine learning models. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, I will be around to answer any questions you have. Yes, thank you.